that you have about it. So let's go ahead and get started. First, some really quick introductions. Holly Sheldon is the Senior Business Analyst for Expertus, and I'm Gordon Johnson, the VP of Marketing for Expertus. And for those of you who are not familiar with Expertus or the ExpertusONE LMS, I'll tell you about that real quickly. First of all, Expertus has been around since around 1998, and you might seem that's a long time for a more modern LMS that ExpertusONE is, but we actually started out as an LMS, more of an implementation company. And then we started developing portals that worked on top of products like Saba and SumTotal and others that were big back in the early 1990s. And then eventually, within the past 5-7 years, we started developing our own LMS. And that's, you've probably heard about that. It's been ranked the #1 LMS for 2016 by eLearning 24/7, Craig Weiss, and it's won almost every LMS award out there. But Expertus is a company. We're in U.S., Europe, Asia, and around 150 employees in all those locations. So that's a little bit about Expertus and about ExpertusONE, our LMS, but I want to go ahead and go straight into the presentation topic today about LMS reporting in general. So Holly, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Okay, so thank you, Gordon. All right, well, welcome everyone. So we are going to jump right into the content here. With that, the format is we're really just going to count down into what we believe are the top 5 headaches. So with that, number 5, dashboards and analytics. So talking a little bit about data, right, and business on the go. Today, we live in a world where everything is really fast-paced, right? People are on the go. We live in an age where people really expect easy access to information, immediate access to information, and they also expect it to be aesthetically appealing, right, when they receive that information. So, I mean, let's face it, if a product cannot meet these 3 basic requirements, it's really challenging to drive user adoption. The person on the go, they really want access to their information in a manner that's timely, effective, and efficient. That's really where you're going to see dashboards and analytics come into play. So with dashboards and analytics, it really allows for your users to go from step really 1 to 100, right? They don't have to take the time to format that information into something that's easily digestible. It's already there for them. So not only is the information delivered to them, it's packaged in a format that's easy to understand, it's actionable, and it's immediate. Right? There's a huge difference that when you're looking at a screen as far as what you see here. For, let's say you received a CSV file and then you have to go in and you're going to add filters, maybe then pull up a couple of pivot tables, and then maybe create a graph, right? So there's all these different steps involved that really that harness that ability to consume that information immediately. You know, for the most part, people do learn and understand differently, but pie charts, right, those are pretty universal. So really it's information that's really in an easy to understand format that can show you what you need to know at a glance. And I think that's really the key concept here is having that at a glance. Now, not every LMS provides dashboards and analytics. So there's a couple of things we can recommend as far as what if your LMS doesn't provide dashboards and analytics. Something I'm a huge advocate of is always contact your LMS provider, right? Really strengthen that relationship between you and your LMS provider. Really at the end of the day, they're the expert on the platform. So if you tell them what you're trying to achieve, they might surprise you and might come back with a couple of different things. First of all, there might be new features in the product that you didn't even know existed, or they might be coming shortly, so it's something that can help you kind of plan your rollout. Best case scenario, right, is that they're going to share something with you that you never realized existed. Now, if the feature is not existing in the product at all, the LMS provider, really, they might be able to share something with you as far as best practices. They might have some other customers who are doing some similar types of reporting and really allow you to get a glance into what some other people are doing with some minimal research on your side. So again, this might be a recommendation of outside tools or resources that are available for you to leverage, but at the end of the day, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Now, if they don't have any recommendations, you know, there are definitely still some different resources you can leverage. You know, check to see if you have any other integrated platforms that offer out-of-the-box dashboards and analytics. So, for instance, you know, many people will integrate or are interested in integrating their LMS with Salesforce or other common, you know, CRM tools. So with that, many of those systems will have some easily formatted dashboards that are included right out of the box. You know, and even further, right, there's a bonus here. When you're integrated into two different systems, you typically are going to have access to even more information. So for example, with a platform like Salesforce, right, in your LMS, you might only be able to report on completions. But if you get that information over to Salesforce, right, you then might be able to combine that information with some sales information to make it even more powerful. So for instance, maybe you're going to report on training completion per territory and associated revenue, right, per account manager. So you can see how that really can build. You know, and then alternatively, excuse me, not everything needs to be done through fancy software and integrations, right? We all know that. We've been doing it for years. So, you know, with that, I've worked with plenty of organizations who build a basic dashboard in Analytics shell in Excel. And from here, they easily populate information as it becomes available. So, you know, it's not quite as convenient as things happening automatically, obviously. But setting up a template, right, in order to truly expedite this data, and all you're doing is plugging in that new information will really help you visualize that information in an easy-to-use format and hopefully include minimal training, right, from your side if you don't have something available. Okay. All right. So the next topic we are going to look at is going to be customization. Now, historically, you know, there were two big issues with legacy reports, you know, way back, and if you're coming from a newer LMS system, this might not be relevant. But one, you know, you needed someone who understood how the database was structured, meaning, you know, which tables are actually related, so you have the ability to export the appropriate raw data. Second, you needed to have someone who knew how to use business intelligence software like SAP's Crystal Reports, right, in order to take that data and transform it into actual meaningful information that people could consume. You know, these reports were typically very, very costly in the past. I mean, we're talking $20,000 plus to produce, you know, depending on complexity. With that, obviously, that's not ideal, right, as far as custom reporting goes. You know, at the end of the day, it's not an easy task to set up an LMS, and part of an implementation, typically people will find that they are going to be defining reporting requirements. Now, if you work for a larger organization, you'll probably see that, you know, different team members all across your organization are going to have their own reporting requirements. So not only do they want to see things differently, they want different information packaged how they see it to be packaged differently as well, right? So from there, it's not only implementation, right? You're also gathering reporting requirements that are ongoing, right? So as things are changing in your organization, you might need to create new reports. It's always a great idea to kind of consistently reevaluate reporting, right? Making sure that you're producing the most efficient and effective reports. And really, when you're discovering these new reporting requirements, the bottom line is, do you have the means to create a new report, right, in order to make that more effective? Okay. So looking at reporting here at custom reporting, I think one of the most important things to note, right, is one size does not fit all. Now, when we talk about custom reports, right, really for us, a key thing here, a key resolution is you're having the ability to create your own custom reports and truly that customization without technical knowledge, right? You don't want to be spending that $20,000, right, for each new report that you need. So with that, kind of tying into the one size does not fit all, it's important to consider that no matter how comprehensive, right, any kind of canned reports are, there's always a need for new and custom reports. There always is. Everybody's going to always want something else in a different format and a different layout, and that's okay, right? But the important thing is having that ability to go in and easily alter that information. Now, in ExpertusONE, and actually I'll pull this up in just a second just so you can kind of take a look here, but in ExpertusONE we have something called the Design Wizard. This kind of allows people a simple, kind of easy to use interface, which really is just drag and drop foolproof tables, right, to allow you to truly select the fields that you're looking for without truly having that back-end database knowledge. So with that, I'm just going to switch over for just a second. We're not going to do a full demo of ExpertusONE, but I would like to show you just some information on reports real quick. So let me log in. Okay. So just for anybody who hasn't seen ExpertusONE before, just to kind of give you a practical example for kind of what we were just referencing about some custom reports here, right? We are looking at the ExpertusONE interface, so I'm logged in, I'm authenticated here, and I'm on my Reports tab. So again, based on any permissions that I have, I'm seeing reports that are available here, which really would allow me to pull any information that I want to see in the system. Now, having the ability to easily launch, right, that's one thing, right? I can come in here and just pull information right away. But we're talking about custom reports. So just to give you an idea of kind of what I'm talking about, now in ExpertusONE we have two different options here. We have the SQL report query builder here. And really, as long as you know SQL, which again might be far less approachable than kind of going back to how some of the legacy systems work, but truly, right, you're entering in your query of table references here, and you can go through and design your report this way. Okay. However, I don't know SQL, so I kind of live over here in this report design wizard. Now this is really what I'm referencing when I'm talking about things that are easy to use for your users. Okay, so if I come in here and, for instance, I want to report something about courses, specifically I want to look at specific class sessions and maybe even the content associated with those. So you can see here, in our system, right, you really don't have to have an understanding of, those relational data tables and kind of how they're all connected, right? They're automatically graying out for you, so you don't have to sit there and figure out what's actually going to pull you some data. Further, I can very simply just come through and check which columns I want to see in my actual report, and then from here, I'm going to be brought right back to the same space that I was just looking at. So whether I'm adding in filters, right, because I want to see this information in different ways, I can come in here and do that. Okay, I have these different options here. I can even change my layout here as far as what this is going to look like. Okay. So just an example as far as custom reporting goes, right? It is really important to be working with a learning management system that has access to custom reporting because, right, as you're reevaluating, as you're going through things, new reporting requirements are really always going to be coming up. So just to give you a quick example there. All right. Our next topic to look at is visibility. Okay, so now as your organization grows, really you'll inevitably begin to consider who should be seeing what reports in your LMS. That can be a pretty daunting process, right, if your LMS does not support segmentation. As coming from an LMS company, right, it's never a great practice to just give all of the keys to the castle, right, to every admin that exists. You might find some information goes missing, things are deleted, right, so you just want to be careful about who has access to that information. Now, aside from that, right, a lot of custom reports also may be tailored to many different audiences. So if you are responsible for creating reports or even gathering requirements, right, you might find a lot of overlap in what users at your organization are expecting. But they might ultimately be anticipating different output, which is reasonable. They want information that's relevant to them, right, and they don't want to have to filter through reports in order to gather what they need. So this is even going back to, right, our initial topic of looking at things easy to consume, easy to digest. Now, aside from this, you also have to consider any kind of security considerations here for your company as a whole, right? So you have data privacy regulations that you're expected to follow. You know, are there only certain level of admins that should be privy to information? So you really do have to be extra careful not to share information such as addresses, passwords, contact information, etc. So on top of actually producing these reports, right, you certainly have all of these additional considerations. Now, kind of working through some of these visibility challenges, you know, there are certainly things that you can do to make the task a little bit easier on yourself. First, it's a really great idea to make sure you're reviewing the reporting requirements as a whole. So what I mean by that, you know, have all the managers submitted similar requirements to you? You know, at this point, it might be a great idea to consider leveraging any type of pre-built or even building a new role-based report. So the key here would be really streamlining the information so only specific roles have access to the content. Now, you can certainly incorporate, you know, those reporting requirements from all of your managers, right, in order to build a fully comprehensive report, and then really just distribute this information on your own or allow them to pull their own reports here, right? And kind of the key takeaways, right, is you're not overcluttering your site, right? There's not an overwhelming list of reports. Maybe you have 50 managers. Do they all need their own reports? Or can they truly leverage kind of more of a role-based? You also have to consider things like who this might be relevant for. So not just managers, right? It might be role-based by learners, managers, even instructors, maybe even by departments. And then further, you might even consider things like what permissions do they have? Do they have view only? Can they create new report templates off of that? Can they edit things and change things? So a lot to consider. But when you're going through and you're kind of grouping people into these roles, it will certainly help you keep that reporting structure clean. So with that, right, it's obviously role-based reports might not be possible, and that's perfectly fine. So with that, you know, we really think that that's where data segmentation comes into play. What data segmentation allows you to do is truly separate data. So what I mean by that is when I go in to pull a report, right, I might be seeing different information than you. So this might be coming quite possibly in the form of multiple reports, right? That might be easier. Or it might be coming in the form of a set of rules that are put in place or filters within a report to automatically distribute that information. Again, though, the key thing here is you really want to think about capturing this in the most efficient way possible. Really for, you know, maintenance purposes, allowing your reports to be streamlined will keep things as effective as possible, right, for you as an administrator, since your task is really to keep things clean. So again, for, you know, data segmentation, some of the key takeaways there would be, you know, that same report, but it shows different subsets of data based on the person running the report. This might be relevant for things like a class enrollment report, right? I, as an instructor, want to see things that are relevant to me on this specific class. I don't care about the 100 other instructors that are there and available in my organization. Okay. This also goes with the concept of really keeping that data security intact, right? So, for instance, a German user's transcript can only be seen by German admins and not others. The last thing to talk about here is governance reports. Now, when a lot of people think of reports, right, they're thinking of reports to deliver data, right, to different members of their organization or potentially even outside of their organization. Think about building some reports to help you govern the system, right? So maybe it's to help your super admins keep an eye on all activities and kind of catch some of those anomalies to keep the system truly clean, right? Maybe you want to report on courses that have no enrollment for X amount of months, keeping your catalog clean. Maybe you want to track classes delivered, but they're pending for completion, right? Keeping your instructors honest, right, and marking for their completion. Or even looking at admin roles and who's actually using the system and how they're using the system. And maybe you can kind of pull back, right, some of the access settings if needed. So that's definitely something to consider as well, you know, when you look at who should be able to see what, right, looking at the full picture of your LMS and using and leveraging reports to help you as an admin, right, do your job and keep the system clean, not just kind of reporting on the data that's being inputted into the system. Okay. All right. Next, we are going to talk about accessibility. All right, so really here, you know, to go along with the theme of this fast-paced life that we're all living, right, it's really essential that your admins, your managers, even your partners, your customers, they want to have easy access to information when they want it and when they need it, right? That's just kind of a fact. There's nothing worse, right, than navigating your way through 5 different software systems and from there trying to determine what's going to provide you the information that you're looking for, right? We all have all these different applications that we have open all day long. And it can be incredibly tedious, right, to have to log in, locate your reports, go through, maybe apply some filters, and then follow any other required process, right, in order to ultimately get your data. That's an absolute hassle. One thing we urge you to consider is using scheduling reports. Now, the concept here really is finding a way to get the information that you're looking for directly where you want it to go. Now, this might be as easy as pulling up a dashboard, right, as we've previously discussed. However, maybe you are, you know, you're just an LMS admin that's looking for a way to stay up to date on things like your training schedule, right? So what I like to think about here is working smarter and not harder. Think about, is there a way that you can automatically have that information sent to your inbox? That's really the concept of where scheduling reports comes in. So I mean, really, just imagine, right? Monday morning at 8 a.m., you're automatically receiving a list of all of the upcoming trainings over that week. Maybe it includes details about the instructor, registrations, location, maybe even how much revenue you're gaining that week. Right? You're not going to be wasting time digging through the LMS and trying to source that information. Finding out if there's a way to set up these scheduled reports, right, in order to get the information delivered to your inbox, exactly how you want to see it will certainly benefit you. Also, really consider this on a broader scale. You know, do you have reporting training numbers that you have to send to your boss on a monthly basis? You know, do your partners want to know which of their customers are completing training on a quarterly basis, right? I mean, really, if you're an LMS admin, there's a very, very good chance you're seen as the LMS master, right, for your organization. Thereby, people probably approach you on a fairly regular basis in order to request information from you. So really think about ways to make your role as efficient as possible so you can focus your efforts, right, on other important things, growing your training program, rather than being, you know, a process operator of pulling reports and emailing those out. Okay. Now the last thing here is looking at meaningful data. All right, so meaningful data, perhaps the most important and can be potentially frustrating thing, is really making things meaningful to you, right? Looking at things like filters, data tables, reports that are relevant to you, the titles in your coding, really, really thinking through and gathering adoption from all of your admins on what will be meaningful to them. Now, this doesn't start with reporting, obviously, right? It starts with the integrity of the data, that's really put into your learning management system. The thing here is that once the data is into your system, right, it allows people to kind of really soak in that knowledge, and then from there, take action on that. Now, if you're reporting on bad data, that makes it a little bit more challenging, right, in order to really take some truly actionable items from the reports that you're pulling. So if you're new to, right, if you're implementing a new LMS or you're going to be implementing a new LMS, that is the very most absolute perfect time to go through your data. Make sure things like your coding systems, your titling systems, right, your data tables as far as data mapping, data going through and making sure all those things are meaningful. There's usually not a reason to have surplus information in an LMS. So as you're bringing information over, considering, do I really need to bring this information over? Can this be archived? Can this be left elsewhere? So when you look at making data meaningful, it really starts with the information that is mapped into your learning management system. Once you have that, you can leverage, right, some of these other options as far as making things even more meaningful, right? So looking at things like context-sensitive filters, right, to maybe auto-fetch things for your learner, manager, and instructor. So I know, for instance, in ExpertusONE, we have a field relevant to the user where you automatically can inherit the user credentials. Right? That's not a filter that your user has to actually fill out. It's automatically providing them information that's relevant to them. Right? So being able to go in and set up some of those options, like those context-sensitive filters, will certainly aid you well in making sure that the output is meaningful for the person that is pulling the report. Also, consider the ability to filter on custom fields. Now, many learning management systems have the ability to add kind of custom metadata, right, captured all across the system, right, whether it's at your course level, your class level, maybe at your location level. So what this can allow you to do, right, is capture information that maybe is not outwardly captured in the LMS. So think about, for instance, maybe you want to report on a combination of classes and locations, and you're trying to determine, classroom utilization, right? So adding things like that, again, that might not be fully out-of-the-box reports, fully even out-of-the-box data, but you're making something from a very basic setup by adding some of those custom fields in. Also want to mention, it's a great idea to really look at big picture, right? Avoiding redundancies. With the ability to filter on multiple attributes and narrow down the results instead of creating multiple reports. So we've kind of been talking about this all along, but you want to make sure that you don't have 3 reports that are pulling the same bit of information. It's confusing not only for you, it's confusing for anybody with access to your training program. Also, try and keep the list of reports that is available, to not be too overwhelming and confusing as far as the reports list goes. Really thinking through, taking the time to name those reports appropriately, adding a very clear description of what should be included in the report. All of that is going to aid you well, right, in going through and kind of determining your truly accessible list of reports that are available to your users. So it just kind of ties into really identifying the most popular reporting requirements, right, across your entire organization, and making sure that at the end of the day you're publishing the right set of reports with a sufficient set of filter options to really allow people to achieve what it is they're looking to extract. Because if you're not providing them with what they need, right, that's when you get all the phone calls, I need this and this and this and a million follow-ups. So kind of proactively thinking through and gathering those requirements, setting up that truly effective and efficient list of reports will help you truly provide meaningful reporting data. All right, so with that, we've kind of counted down through our top 5 headaches, or what we consider to be our top 5 headaches. So I guess at this point, we'll kind of open it up for any questions. So I guess I'll turn to you.
Yeah, and we've got some good questions coming in, so I'll get to those. But one observation that I made, I went back and took a look at what everybody on this call said was their biggest challenges. When you registered for the webinar, it asked the question, what's your big challenges? And it gave you 6 things to choose from. I went back and tabulated those to see what the top challenges were. And I'll go through those real quick because I thought it was really interesting, because the top 2 are actually very, very similar. So the least challenge that people had is that they couldn't schedule auto reports. So that was the least at only 6% of the people who signed up for the webinar. The second least is custom reports are too expensive. So that was only 11%. And then there were 2 that tied at 17%. And the first one was out-of-the-box reports are not what we need. That was 17%. And then it's too hard to build reports was also at 17%. So the top 2, let's look at the next one actually first. At 22% was the lack of integration with other systems. So assuming that the LMS is not integrated with other systems, or the reporting is not integrated with other systems, I'm not exactly sure. But the first one I thought was very close to that, and that's at 28%, reports cannot measure the impact of training. Which is what Holly just talked about just a moment ago. So number 1, reports can't measure impact of training. What I was thinking, and maybe some of you can send me a chat or a question about this, is that those top 2 are very similar, right? Reports can't measure impact of training, and there's a lack of integration with other systems. Is that because the only way to really measure the impact training is by being integrated with other systems like the CRM, or some system that gives you more data, more business data, I guess you might say. So if anybody has some thoughts on those, please let me know. Send me a chat or a question. I'll get either one of those if you send them. First, before we get into Q&A, I wanted to let everybody know that when you exit the GoToWebinar today, a brief survey will pop up. So we definitely encourage everybody to let us know what you liked about the webinar, let us know how we can improve for future ones. And also, of course, if anybody would like to reach out to us directly or schedule a personalized demo of the ExpertusONE LMS or the ExpertusONE reporting features, please contact us. Here on the screen you see all that information. Okay, so let's get to the questions. We've got some really good ones. Let's go first to, hold on just a second, let me pull them up. Okay, first question, fairly simple one, Holly. Can you export to Excel spreadsheet? And I believe what they're asking is, can the ExpertusONE LMS export to Excel?
Oh, yep, absolutely. So yes, our reporting tool does support that. So it goes actually through a CSV file, which will open in Excel. And then you actually also have the ability to export to PDF as well.
Okay. So here's a little bit harder question. more complex question. How does LRS, Learning Record Store reporting, integrate with an LMS, or how is it compatible with an LMS? Any thoughts on that, Holly?
Yeah, I mean, that is certainly very interesting. I mean, when you think about, the LRS, right, people typically integrate a LRS to get a deeper level of reporting on some of the interactions that are taking place. So unless there's truly a very deep integration, right, between your LMS and LRS, right, a lot of that reporting functionality and capability will actually depend on your LRS and kind of the output of what that supports. So I know many of them will have, dashboards built in with the ability to kind of export that information in the format that you're looking for. But typically it would be done through your LRS.
Okay, sounds good. And we had a comment here just a second ago to the question that I asked everybody. And Rebecca said, in most cases, the measurement of learning is by the doing or performing. And that comes out in the metrics, not necessarily a training competition report. So not standard reports necessarily, or I'm assuming not LMS reports that are not integrated with other systems. Okay, so some of the other questions we had here. Let's see, we have LMS administrators and managers who access reporting. And when they say managers, I'm assuming not LMS managers, but just managers in general. So we have LMS administrators and managers who access reporting, but not sure who should be able to build reports from scratch or customize reports. How much would you give access to custom reporting?
That's always a slippery slope, I think it's going to depend on two things. One, how intuitive is your system to truly build custom reports, right? Because if that's incredibly complex, like how we talked about how some of the legacy systems are, that could be a very expensive process for you, right, to truly open that up to all. So that's one thing to consider. The second thing to consider is training, right? As far as allowing people access and roles into the LMS, that's not necessarily the problem. I always mention it, right? Not giving everybody all the keys to all the doors in the castle. But with that, when people are properly trained, it's a little bit more appropriate to do so. So really taking the time and consideration to catch these people up to speed, what they need to do, how they need to do it, and potentially even leveraging from there, right? Even some of the segmentation features. So maybe these reports are only visible to these specific users or the specific group of users. That way you're not kind of cluttering your reports for all the other users in your system. So is it a bad idea, to allow managers to create custom reports? No, not necessarily. I just think there's some other kind of considerations in there in regards to, the intuitive nature and training of your managers.
Yep. Okay. A couple more questions, but we also have a couple more observations coming in or answers to the question I posed earlier. Rebecca says, integration with operational dashboards can give a better reflection. So focusing on not necessarily, I don't think Rebecca means LMS operations, but more company operational dashboards can give a better reflection of the effect of training. Merging operational metrics dashboards with learning completion records can give a better reflection. So that's one. And here's another one, similar to the other one we had before from Yvonne. Measuring impact of training has to do more with level 4 measurement. How folks applied what they learned. This has to do more with measuring training ROI, was my thought. Okay, so that's some more, and we've also got a question for you, Holly. Let's see. Okay, are there any basic reports that you have found pretty much every learning organization uses and or gets benefit from? So I'm assuming these would be canned reports that come with most learning management systems. Anything that stands out for you?
Yeah, I think there's two key things actually that I mean, there's a lot that I think I've seen across systems, but two key things. One would be relevant to enrollments, right? At the end of the day, people take training in an LMS, and you want to be able to see who's taken that training. So having some form of enrollment report with the appropriate filters, right, whether that is by the course, whether that's by the manager, by the compliance requirement, whatever the case is, but being able to report on your actual enrollments, right, in the format that you want to see it, with the details that you require, that's a pretty standard report. The second one I would say would have to do with content results. Right, so sometimes it's not enough just to know that somebody's completed something. You want to be able to go in and see, whether it's the number of attempts or how long they spent in something. And typically, right, this is related to your SCORM content or AICC content. Being able to track those multiple attempts. So I would say across, most LMSs that I've worked with, right, being able to report on not only your enrollment, but being able to kind of see even a step deeper of, the content results itself. Those are two very consistent reports we see in LMS.
Okay, excellent. And here's a related report. So, a related question, I'm sorry. Related question is, what are the best reports to measure training impact? And it'll be interesting how you answer this, because what we talked about, some of people who chatted in some responses said that it's extremely hard to measure actual impact without the integrations with the other systems. So what's your thought on that, Holly?
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly echo that. The measuring ROI is always something that I think people struggle with. So having that extra ability to report on, with integrations, whether it's a Salesforce integration or et cetera, will certainly enhance your ability to do that. Other than that, I mean, I guess for me, I would think of two different things here. One, being able to report on things like surveys and assessments to truly be able to see the impact, right, of before and after or training, to be able to get a true reflection of what people are gathering from there. I would also, in a more broad perspective, think of reports that are having to do with the general use of your LMS. So not maybe necessarily how many registrations, but how many people are logging on, how many people are clicking this link, are your banners effective, are your announcements effective, are your course titles effective. So being able to see where kind of people are clicking around and almost adding in that analytics piece to see what's truly allowing for an impact for your learners.
Okay, thank you, Holly. That's great. Mm-hmm. Have time for one more question, and here it is. It is, can you show us an example of how you would automate a report in your LMS?
Oh, sure.
You may have to pull back up ExpertusONE if you've still got it running there, Holly.
I do. Give me 1 second.
And while you're doing that, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for attending today, and thanks for the observations that everybody had and the attention. We really appreciate that. And we offer these, this is a series that we're actually doing on headaches related to LMSs, and we've done 2 so far. We've done one that's more general for administration headaches, and then this one's specific to reporting, because we do hear a lot of people say that that's part of the reason that they moved to ExpertusONE is because of the reporting issues that they were dealing with. But if anybody has any ideas of anything that you'd like to see us put together, we'd love to hear them, because we're not sure what the third one should be that we do on this. So just let me know if you do. But I'll hand it back to you, Holly.
All right. So what I did, I'm just in our reporting tab here. I pulled up a report called What's Coming Up. Also, actually, a very popular report that we typically see across some systems. And this is really just to help the admin kind of manage, upcoming classes, right? As far as the logistics, where is it held, who's the instructor, how many people are registered, things an admin would definitely want to know. So in our case, right, we're going to click on the Schedule button. And this will open the schedule feature. So there's nothing currently scheduled in here. Now, when I open this up, so the way that this works in ExpertusONE, essentially, you have the ability to send directly to email addresses here. Now, the cool thing is, right, this is not limited to people that are inside your LMS. So, for instance, if you want to be able to send, this is not this report probably, but if you want to be able to send let's say, a count of how many, to your partner, how many customers of theirs have completed, certain training aspects, right? You can absolutely do that without giving them access to the LMS, right? So you're just entering in an email address here, your subject and your message. You do even have the option to say whether you want to send a CSV or a PDF file, right? That's very important. Should the person be able to manipulate the data? Are you just trying to send them a screenshot of what's happening, or do you want to allow them to filter? From here, you also have the ability to go in and, some of us are really proactive, right? Sending things out on a yearly, monthly, weekly, daily basis. In this example, right, it probably makes sense to send this report to myself on a weekly basis. Actually, talking through the example, Monday morning at, let's say, 8 a.m., right? So I can go in and schedule this to myself, even on the appropriate time zone, right, that I want to add here. So I can certainly do that as well. Further, any filters here you can also add, right? So if I want to just schedule this, for a certain date range, over a period of a year, that's fine. Or I can even come in and say I want it to run, X amount of days before the run date to X amount of days after the run date, right? So you can come in here and, right, you're setting this up one time, so it's sending you on a weekly basis, 7 days out, of all of the training that you want to see. So really, that's how it works in ExpertusONE. I'm sure other platforms are similar when it comes to scheduling.
Okay. Well, thank you, Holly. That's all the time we have for today. Appreciate everybody coming again. And please feel free to reach out to us once again if you need anything, need a demo, need any questions answered, anything like that, any advice or anything like that, we're here for you. So everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.